How do we define beautiful? Well, we can't because it's up to the individual to decide what they think is beautiful. But how do we take that opinion on beauty and bring it to the physical world? How do we take what's in our mind and make it real in real time? And that's what I'm going to talk about today is taking what you find beautiful and bringing it to the surface through art. Today I'm going to talk about how I do the artistic process and how you can relate to that. Um, so, who am I? I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I have a house. I work full time. I'm a student. I'm busy as much as the rest of the world is. It's almost frowned upon now to be relaxed. It's almost frowned upon now to not be, running around with a chicken with its head cut off. It's almost unheard of to actually sit down and do something for yourself and to learn from it. And that's what art means to me. With that being said, I want to express that everyone that might be watching this may think, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative, and I have to disagree. While some people aren't the usual artist, they do have a creative bone in their body. They do have creativity running through them. I don't care if you're an average Joe. I don't care if you have a completely left brain, mathematics and science. It's everyone has that drive to strive for beauty in their life, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Um, so, how can we create this sense of beautiful? Well, in 3 steps, I'm going to explain this. First step, I like to call the setup. So, for the setup, um, actually set up to begin. Lay out your materials, lay out your medium, whatever that may be. Get your water set out, get paintbrushes, get anything that is useful to you during that time. Also, make sure you have tons of paper towels, anything that's used for cleanup, a drop cloth, just because if you are getting into the moment and getting into this artistic piece, you're not going to want to run to grab something to clean it up if a mistake happens. So with that being said, you got through the practical thing, and the next thing is what I like to call the 5 senses of the setup. And the 5 senses, I like to use those because I think it's a good representation of the environment you create for yourself when beginning a piece. The first one is touch. Touch is important because it's your feeling, it's your physical feeling you are feeling when you're working on something. So I like to get into my comfiest clothes, but clothes that make me feel good, that make me feel proud and comfortable and confident while being comfortable at the same time. The next is smell. And this is important, and I know some of you might be like, why would smell help me when doing an art piece? It does. Um, think about when you smell pot roast and you think, oh my gosh, that makes me think of my mom, or that makes me think of my aunt. It's the same thing with this. My grandma was an artist, and she always used patchouli. And I don't necessarily think patchouli is my favorite scent, but when I'm doing a piece, I like to light patchouli because it reminds me of her. And it floods back those memories, that nostalgia of seeing her when I was a kid working on her artistic pieces. So that's why smells important. Light some candles, burn your incense, or you could have no smell at all, and that's what's comfortable to you. But just choose something that relates back to your personal message. Um, Next is taste, and the reason I say taste is because no one wants to have a dry mouth when they're working. So get something that you like, whether it's coffee or water or wine, whatever your vice is. Get it next to you, sip on it, loosen up, and just have something near you that makes you feel comfortable. Um, and that's why I always like to do that, because I hate getting up and getting something to drink when I'm in the middle of working. Next is sight, and this is something I also believe is important because what you're seeing around you can relate to what you're putting on the page. So if I'm feeling quite moody and kind of calm, I might light some candles and put some lights around me and dim everything around me. Maybe put around some blankets and fabric that make me feel comfortable and inspired. Or I've had an instance where I've been working on something and I felt very clean and bright. So I opened all the windows, let all the light in, and did it early in the morning. It's just depending. So just make sure your environment is something that inspires you. Um, Lastly, which I'll say is the most important, is sound. And that is because sound can really relate to what you are doing. For example, if I'm feeling quite angry and almost intense, I might put on some old Led Zeppelin, or I might put on some heavy metal. Now, if I'm feeling quite calm, like I just mentioned in the morning, I might put on some instrumentals, some piano, or even some just slight jazz or something like that. Or I've worked in complete silence before, if that felt right for the moment. Choosing your sound is the last and most important piece of the five senses setup. So, with all that being said, you have your materials out, you have your cleanup stuff ready, you've done your five senses, and you're ready to go. So, we're going to move on to the next step, which I like to call digging in deep, because you literally dig in deep. What I mean by that is sitting down in front of your blank canvas and deciding what your piece is going to mean. Now, you may not know right up front, but a general idea of what's going on with you, what's going on in your head, what's going on in your life, and how you can translate that to what you're working on. What you can do that through is three things, three artistic terms: texture, line, and color. Texture is important. Texture is the thing that lifts off the page. Texture is the thing you feel, it's the thing you see. And it can mean more than just a few bumps on the page. It can tell a story. And so it's very important to use that in your pieces. Number two is line. Line is how wavy or how straight or how many lines you use. I've done a piece where it's been a white piece of paper with 3 lines on it. Some people may think that's not art, but it is, because it means something to the creator. I've also done pieces where it's been crazy zigzags everywhere, and that's also something to say about what I was feeling in that current moment. And lastly is color. To me, that is one of the most important, because that's just how I operate. Some people might use black and white. Some people might use a gradient of reds, from pink to dark burgundy and everything in between. For me personally, I like to use a lot of different colors, especially warm. That's just my personal style. And so when using those 3 terms, decide what your style is and how you want to present yourself to the world. With that being said, I have a couple examples I'm going to use regarding those 3 terms. So I'm going to get behind me and